The Victorian era, which began in 1837 and ended with the death of Queen Victoria in 1901, was a remarkable period of social, cultural, and industrial changes in the Western world. Improvements in how textiles were woven, dyed, and printed introduced a dizzying variety of new dress styles. Fashion and lifestyle magazines provided countless examples of the newest mode, which became increasingly easier to reproduce at home, especially with the rise of the home sewing machine in the mid-19th century. There are so many options for historical sewing patterns for this time period, and sometimes it can become overwhelming to choose. So I want to share with you today my favorite sewing patterns for every decade of Queen Victoria's reign. I selected patterns that were available and easy to purchase, either from the pattern company's website or auction sites like eBay and Etsy. These patterns are recommended because their design and instructions will contribute a historically accurate look to your garment. I also found them easy to use. All patterns mentioned will be linked in the description box below. Victoria became Queen of the United Kingdom in 1837 at the age of 18. So let's start our Victorian sewing adventure in the 1830s. The 1830s stands out for its success in every detail of feminine dress. Enormous sleeves, large bonnets, full skirts, and layers of frothy trim. Truly Victorian 455 romantic era dress is a great pattern for achieving that 1830s leg of mutton sleeve look. It comes with options for a long sleeve for day wear and a short sleeve for evening wear. You can even use both the sleeve types on one dress to create a sheer long sleeve over a short sleeve, a popular and fun historically accurate design. The bodice can be gathered or pleated over the fitted lining, or you can use the lining pieces to create a simple darted bodice. There are so many fun options with this pattern. In Western fashion, the 1840s are characterized by long bodices, tight sleeves, and full skirts. Laughing Moon 114 is my favorite pattern for the 1840s, and my favorite sewing pattern of all time, as proven by how many times I've traced and adjusted the pattern pieces. With Laughing Moon 114, you can make a classic fan front dress, or a simple darted front dress, with 3 different neckline options. All these options are historically correct, and you can see more examples of them in my 1840s bodices video. There are multiple sleeve styles which can be used with any of the bodice pieces. I've even used the bodice lining pieces of this pattern to create an evening gown. It was very easy to lower the neckline and slash and spread the sleeve to create a puffed sleeve. This pattern also includes instructions for a pelerine, which is a great way to use up scrap fabric. The instructions are clear, detailed, and historically accurate. I highly recommend. The Big Four pattern companies usually fall short with their historical sewing patterns, but Simplicity 7212 is an exception. Although the instructions can be confusing, Simplicity 7212 captures all the details of 1850s dress, including bust pads, coat sleeves, and piped seams. This pattern gives you everything you need, except undergarments, to build your 1850s wardrobe. It includes pieces for making an apron, undersleeves, and a collar. In addition, the dress design is a great basic that can be used for working class or upper class scenarios based on your fabric choice. If you use this pattern, I recommend ignoring all the instructions for trims. The trimming suggested by the pattern isn't historically accurate or necessary in some cases, so just save yourself the trouble. When making Victorian clothing, it's important to start with well-fitting undergarments. There are lots of patterns out there for Victorian undergarments, but Simplicity 2890 is my favorite. It's also a great value because the pattern packet includes pieces for a chemise, drawers, and a corset. These patterns were reproduced directly from the designer's own copies of Der Bazaar and La Mode Illustrée, so each garment is guaranteed to be a historically accurate design from the 1860s. This pattern is, however, a bit complex, with a lot of techniques that may be unfamiliar to a new historical sewist. I recommend building your skills by making the drawers first. You can follow my video tutorial on those for step-by-step instructions. Then making the chemise, for which I've also created a tutorial video, and then sewing up the corset. Let me know if you'd like a video tutorial for the corset as well in the comments below. The corset design is great because it uses gores and curved seams to create a curvy shape. I made my corset using the smallest size in the pattern, but I didn't make a mock-up, and unsurprisingly the corset turned out too small, but it's still comfortable and I've worn it for years. Overall, this pattern is historically accurate and a great value for those getting started in mid-19th century costuming. The 1870s saw the crinoline morph into the back-thrusting bustle. The truly Victorian petticoat with wire bustle is a tried and true pattern that will give you the garment that's so distinct to the 1870s. This bustle was drafted from an actual garment advertised in Harper's Bazaar. With this pattern, you can make just the bustle or make a ruffled bustle that also serves as a petticoat. I've made the bustle from this pattern, and although I gave it away many years ago, more recently I used the pattern to create the skirt for my Mrs. Lovett cosplay. I just didn't add the boning or boning channels and reduced the amount of ruffles to get a screen-accurate look. I'm always amazed at how simple and easy the instructions for the waistband and placket are on this pattern. This pattern is super easy to use with a great system of choosing your size so that you'll get a comfortable fit. The 1880s saw the evolution and refinement of the bustle silhouette, which was now paired with bodices with long, tight-fitting sleeves. I haven't sewn an 1880s dress yet, so I looked to those with more experience for a pattern recommendation, and Truly Victorian 466 was suggested multiple times for its ease of instructions. Again, Truly Victorian's size range system makes fitting the pattern to your size a breeze. The contrast front panel, lapels, and cuffs are also a wonderful way to use up scraps of fabric. Laughing Moon 103 is such an amazing pattern, I don't know why it isn't more popular among historical costumers. With Laughing Moon 103, you can create a variety of 1890s day and evening bodices, with options for different collars and draperies. The 5 different sleeve options will have you covered throughout the sleeve puff life cycle of the 1890s. I'm impressed by how thorough and historically accurate the instructions are. The seam lines and seam finishes are exactly what you'd find in an extant 1890s bodice. I also appreciate that this pattern allows you to make a simple bodice with a high collar, exactly the kind of garment that someone in domestic service would have worn. I think that in general, bodices and jackets like these are underrepresented in the costuming community, even though there are so many amazing originals to be found on auction sites for inspiration. I hope this pattern inspires you to make your own 1890s bodice. Queen Victoria died in January 1901, and thus ended the Victorian era and the second longest reign of a British monarch. For the early 1900s, the Folkwear 205 Gibson Girl blouse pattern is my go-to for making shirtwaists. It's easy to use and extremely versatile. I've made an everyday style, hard-working shirtwaist in printed cotton with contrast piping, suitable for a working-class woman. And I have also made a fancy version in silk with a lace overlay yoke and pin-tucked cuffs. I'll link my video tutorial for creating the silk shirtwaist below. This pattern also includes instructions for lace insertion and ruffles. There are so many options for fabric and trim for this style of shirtwaist, which is sure to inspire your creativity. Because the waist of the garment is fitted by tying a ribbon, this shirtwaist is very forgiving of size fluctuations and extremely comfortable to wear. There isn't a tricky waistband that you need to get the fit just right. All you need to do is tie the ribbon around your waist and the blouse is immediately fitted to you, which is excellent. The loose fit also allows me to do the buttons up the back by myself, which allows me to get dressed without any extra help. I hope this video will be helpful to you on your Victorian sewing journey. Let me know in the comments below what your favorite Victorian sewing pattern is, if you've tried any of the patterns I've mentioned today, or what sewing patterns you'd recommend for the mid-19th century. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like down below. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video.